Letting go rarely feels like relief at first. It feels like losing something important. Even when you know something is no longer serving you, releasing it can feel uncomfortable, hollow, or destabilizing. Most people assume this means they're doing something wrong, that they're attached, weak, or afraid of change. Hermetic philosophy offers a different explanation, one that has nothing to do with failure or emotional immaturity. To understand why letting go feels like loss, you have to understand how the mind relates to identity and polarity. What you hold on to is not just an object, a habit, or a situation. It's a mental position. Over time, thoughts, emotions, roles, and patterns become familiar reference points. They provide orientation. They tell you who you are and how the world works. When you let go of something familiar, you're not just releasing the thing itself. You're releasing a part of the structure. Your mind used to stabilize itself. From a Hermetic perspective, this is why letting go triggers discomfort. It creates a temporary imbalance. The law of polarity explains this clearly. Every mental state exists on a spectrum of opposites. Holding on and letting go are not separate actions. They are opposite positions on the same continuum. When you shift away from one pole, you naturally move toward the other. That movement feels like loss, because the mind is leaving familiar ground. This doesn't mean the new state is negative. It means it is unfamiliar. Most people confuse unfamiliarity with danger. The mind prefers known discomfort over unknown freedom. This is why people cling to patterns, even after understanding them. Understanding alone doesn't dissolve attachment. Attachment dissolves when the underlying identification changes. Hermetic philosophy calls this process mental transmutation. Transmutation is not suppression. It is not forcing yourself to stop feeling something. It is the gradual shift of mental energy from one state to another. This shift cannot happen instantly. The mind resists sudden emptiness. When something has occupied mental space for a long time, its absence feels like a void. That void is not loss. It is unclaimed potential. But until a new orientation forms, the space feels uncomfortable. This is why letting go often feels worse before it feels better. People expect release to feel light and immediate. When it doesn't, they panic. They reattach. They return to old habits, relationships, or identities, not because those things were right, but because the mind craves stability. Hermetic philosophy does not advise forcing release. It advises neutralization. Neutralization means loosening identification, without creating inner conflict. You don't declare war on attachment. You stop feeding it. You observe the thought without reinforcing it. You allow the emotion without dramatizing it. Over time, the charge weakens. This is how letting go actually happens. Quietly, gradually, without collapse. Loss is not the act of letting go. Loss is the mind temporarily lacking a replacement structure. Once a new orientation forms, the feeling of loss dissolves on its own. This is why true release cannot be rushed, and why forcing detachment often backfires. The Hermetic path is not about emptiness, it's about reorganization. As old identifications loosen, new forms of clarity emerge, not through effort, through alignment. Letting go feels like loss, only while the mind is still oriented toward what was. When orientation shifts, release no longer feels like loss. It feels like space. If this clarified why release can feel so uncomfortable, the next video explains why motivation comes in waves and how the Hermetic law of rhythm shapes that experience. It's linked here, and it completes the Hermetic core cycle.